Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to tonight's program at iccnc. Tonight is the week of the 10th. Tomorrow is Ashura, the 10th.
So why am I speaking tonight? As most of you know, our main English speaker here is Brother Ahmad Rashid Salim, and he works really hard and prepares himself and delivers really good lectures. He's also the Imam of the Friday prayers, and he delivers very useful khutbah during the Friday prayers and really covers the current affairs and where should Muslims stand on issues, and especially for the entire summer, he's been talking about Islamic ethics. So, but his paper got accepted for a conference in Germany, so he's in Germany presenting. And then our second person that we would ask if Brother Rashid is not available is Dr. Mavani. So we invited him, and his daughter got accepted into dental hygiene program in Houston, and today and tomorrow is the orientation. Both parents had to go to Houston, so he could not come. And then it would have been Dr. David Coolidge, who usually comes here and gives lectures. And Dr. Coolidge said this Muharram he wants to be a speaker, a listener, and not a speaker. He said he needs to recharge his spiritual power and he wants to listen. And so, and then I decided to be a brave person and nominate myself to speak. And there are several reasons for that. First of all, as a Muslim, I truly believe that if you love someone so much, you need to, at their memorial service or remembrance service, if you could speak out, speak up, and talk, it's a good thing. So I can't tell you how much love I have for Imam Hussein. And it comes from our childhood, where we grew up, and all the stories. And for those of you who didn't grow up in countries that Muharram is a big event, and these 10 days, it's super big. It has huge impact on you. And so we saw a lot of pure love for Imam Hussein expressed in various forms: lectures, poetry, procession, azadari, on the street. And it's peak of beauty and elegance, to a point that even criminals in these 10 days don't commit crimes. And it's amazing. These are criminals. There are records in Iran they keep during these 10 days, stealing, beating, fights, the level drops to almost zero. So, this event had an impact on all of us. So then, because of that love, I decided that I should speak tonight. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to do a historical review of the event that led to Imam Hussein being entrapped in Karbala, and what led to Ashura on the day of killing of Imam and 71 of his family members or companions. And but most importantly, I want to talk about what Imam Hussein stood for, and what great cause he stood for, that he became martyr. And in the second part, I want to talk about what is our role as someone who inherited an imam that stood
for justice and being right and standing up and speaking out and opposing, and be consistent with the message. Never wavered. And all of that was for the benefit of the community at large, not for his own benefit. So that's another thing that I want to talk about. And throughout my talk, I want to bring to your attention, what did it take for a Muslim community? Islam started by our dear Prophet Muhammad receiving revelation from the divine and bringing the holy book. And what did it take 50 years after the death of our beloved prophet? They killed his grandson in a manner that 1400 years after, when we talk about it, our heart bleeds. Our emotion cannot be controlled. And I can't tell you how many times when I was putting my thoughts together to prepare for this speech, I cried. I cried because when you see purity in faith and you see an imam who really gave everything in path of God to stand for justice, you're in the way he was killed to fight for justice, it makes you cry. So what did it take? Where did the community go wrong? So I want to mention that and talk about it. And how would the humanity would benefit from the message of Imam Hussein today in the West? And how do we apply the message of Imam Hussein to our daily life in 21st century in San Francisco Bay Area or wherever people are listening to the speech? Throughout my talk, I'm going to emphasize that exaggeration of the story of Imam Hussein doesn't add any value to Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein, the grandson of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, the son of Ali and Fatima, the closest people to our Prophet, does not need exaggeration. He was infallible, not because God made him infallible, because he acquired it. He worked toward being infallible. He was trained by right people. He was trained and learned and got educated by the right people to be who he was. So throughout this presentation, I'll talk about what our message to people should be, what Imam Hussein stood for and what he fought for. A lot of these remembrance program people have at various places is full of falsified stories. And it's important for our youth to know the truth about Imam Hussein, because if you believe some of these stories that Imam Hussein was such a strong man, that with his sword he cut someone in half, God protected him and he had this superpower, then you and I will not benefit from his leadership, because here is someone who is an extraordinary man and I'm a normal human being. But if we stick to the true story of Imam Hussein, then we find out what he was or what he is for us is the spiritual leader who would point us toward the embrace of the divine. So if we want to get to our Creator, if we want to get close to our God, we need to follow the path that He took, and that purity in faith, and consistent in the message, and consistent in stance. We know a historical, spiritual, emotional event took place in Karbala. Just focusing on the emotional aspect of it will not move us forward in life, will not help us to become a better human being, because we would cry tonight and tomorrow we'll back in our life doing the same thing. Shopping from Amazon, working for a company that makes smart bombs, or program write softwares for drones could kill effectively more people. So if we just cry and go home, it's not. So we need to really think about the message and pay attention to the history, so we will not allow the history to repeat again. Imam Hussein stood for peace from the beginning to the end. There are points during the struggle between Imam Hussein and Yazid, who was seeking his, I'll talk about the history, he was seeking his handshake to get credibility, to become the leader. Imam Hussein's message was, I will never agree to a tyrant, but I'm not here to fight. I want to be in a safe place that I would continue promoting good deeds and prevent evil actions. With that introduction, I want to quote from a book from Imam Musa Sadr, who was the Shiites leader in Lebanon, who mysteriously disappeared. Who knows? It was an act of CIA or Libyan government or whoever, a man who was doing great things in Lebanon for the poor Shiites of Lebanon disappeared. But Imam Musa Sadr, in his book, The Journey of Martyrdom, talks about 3 enemies of Imam Hussein. He said Imam Hussein had 3 enemies. The first enemy was Yazid and his army. They killed Imam, who had, like every one of us, had finite life. So Imam would have lived another 10 or 15 years. So they killed him earlier, right? So it's not, it was an enemy, but it's not as bad as the second enemy, or the second group were the one who wanted to destroy his shrines and would push people who want to go to visit the shrine, push them away, and people who wanted to live in the neighborhood where Imam Hussein buried, they would cause them harm, destroy their houses. So those are bad because they wanted to get rid of the signs of Imam Hussein. However, Imam Musa Sadr says the third enemy is the worst enemy. And who are those people? Those are who attempted to distort the goals of Imam Hussein and the dimension of Husseini uprise. They tried to use the event of Karbala as means of gaining income, as we see it every day. There are people who they have a minimum requirement for them to go recite for Imam Hussein. There are people who say things on the stage for Imam Hussein, things that it's for their own personal gain of income, or exploiting it for a worthless benefits, or misusing it for potential gains. They aim to eliminate the highest aspect of Husseini movement, which is a noble purpose. We have seen it in our own country, Iran, the message of Ashura before revolution and the message of Ashura post-revolution in Iran. How before revolution, people were using the events of Imam Hussein to get people stand up against the government, and post-revolution, we would use Imam Hussein to pacify and to quiet people. So in Imam Musa Sad's opinion, these are the most dangerous enemies of Imam Hussein. So let's go cover the history of the event. And I want to take a little step back, even before Imam Hussein's time, from the time of our beloved Prophet Muhammad. I want to take you to Ghazwat al-Uhud, the Battle of Uhud. We have to remember when Imam Hussein fled, when our Prophet Muhammad left Mecca to Medina, so it could be a safe, because they were going to kill him in Mecca, right? And he moved to Medina. There would be troops sent from Mecca to Medina, even, to kill the Prophet and kill his followers. And these were men of Abu Sufyan, which is very critical to remember some of these names, right? So in one of these battles called Battle of Uhud, if those of you who've gone to Hajj, they will take you for a tour. There's a valley, there are two mountains on both sides. So our beloved Prophet appointed two people on top of the mountain to said and told them, whatever you do, don't leave your post, because the enemy could attack us. They could go around the mountain and attack us from the back. Whatever you do, don't leave your post. We're not talking about Imam. This is a prophet, connection directly to God, right? This man is telling you, stand your post. It appears that Muslims are winning the battle and they're taking, whatever belonging of the soldiers of the kuffar who came to attack. And those people on the post sense, well, we're not going to get some of those ghanaim, some of those belonging of the enemy, right? And also having the sense, since we are fighting for the right cause, we could be doing anything we want, right? So they left their post and they came down, and our beloved Prophet's uncle was killed, and our Prophet's teeth got broken, and Muslims almost got, their army got almost decimated in that battle. So you could see we're in that small community, people whose faith were not as pure, had different interest, could lead to some potential danger. And of course, on the last Hajj of our Prophet in a place called Ghadir, our beloved Prophet made his recommendation, who should lead you after me? What happened after his death? People didn't listen to the Prophet's recommendation, and they made they had a meeting, a gathering, and they decided that Ali, who was recommended by our Prophet to be the next leader, was left out, and the first Khalif, Abu Bakr, became the Khalif. So you could see deviation already from the Prophet and the message. As time goes on, you see this deviation becomes larger and larger. And then the first, after the first Caliph became in power, we start invading other countries. In the beginning, it was for purpose of spreading the message of Allah, but then later it became to spread your political will and also taking income and taxations from these lands that you take over. So you could see some of that as well. And then some of the Muslims were dependent on all of these wars and getting some of the incomes from these events. And the first Caliph, what did he do? So when Prophet took over Mecca, he forgave all his enemies, including Abu Sufyan, because Prophet was a peacemaker. But our Prophet was smart. He didn't give any posts to Abu Sufyan. But the first Khalifa gave the power to Abu Sufyan's son, first Yazid, to invade Syria. And that's where the Roman Byzantines were ruling in that area. So Yazid took over Damascus, and they had a governor there, and Yazid was the governor. After his death, the second Caliph, what did he do? He put Muawiyah as a governor. So our Prophet forgave these people, but didn't give them critical posts. So now you're giving your sworn enemy, who perhaps became Muslim and learned so quickly how you could use the power of religion and power of God for your advantage. So Muawiyah became the governor of Syria, and then he started invading Turkey, today's Turkey, and he told them, "I'm not here to make you fast or pray. I'm not here to make you do Sharia. I'm here to include you as part of my government and collect your taxations." So when Imam Ali became the first Caliph, the fourth Caliph, right? After death of Osman, and Muawiyah starts showing his true character, and the first civil war between Muslims happened in the Battle of Siffin. And you could see how Muawiyah and that mentality tricked Muslims in that war, right? And that continued on, of course, when Imam Ali was killed. Imam Hassan declared himself the next Khalifa, and Muawiyah objected that. And since they were always had army invading other countries, so their army was like in action every day. So they were going to attack Kufa, and Imam Hassan did not want another civil war and shed of blood. So he signed an agreement with Muawiyah, and Muawiyah promised Imam Hassan that he would follow the rule of Prophet Muhammad and the other four Khalifa and Holy Book of Quran. And Muawiyah promised that he will not assign someone to precede him, right? It would go to a shura, to a community gathering to vote who should be the next leader. And he would not threaten anyone's life. And Imam Hassan and his followers could not be covertly or overtly threatened. So that was the pact with Imam Hassan. And of course, Muawiyah signed this agreement, but most people knew his intention was not to really follow through with this. And Imam Hassan passed away. In 10 years, Imam Hussein agreed to that agreement. Because one thing about Muawiyah was he was so evil that he would not break laws overtly. I was explaining to a brother, he was a wine drinker, but he never drank in public. There are stories that his guests at dinner, like privately, he would offer him wine, and the guy would say, well, wallahi, I haven't had a drink since the Prophet forbid us from drinking. But Muawiyah would drink, but he never drank overtly, right? So 10 years, and Muawiyah died in year 680 in April or May. From April or May till October. I think it's, how many months is that? Someone does the math. 5 to 6 months. So what did he do? Of course, Muawiyah assigned his son Yazid as the next Khalifa. And Yazid, just the opposite of his dad, didn't have any shield. He revealed his personality. Drunk, public drunkenness at all times. To a point, I think he died very young, and people say that he died because of the complication of, alcoholism. A womanizer, somebody who had a chimpanzee as a pet, and there are stories. This is the ruler of all Muslims, ridiculing, the Khalifa, the governorship of Muslims, by putting his chimpanzee on a donkey and participate in races with the chimpanzee, and just really, and what he was doing, of course, he was not legitimate. So a lot of people did not want to sign agreement with him that he should be the Khalifa. And so he started paying people off. Remember, they invaded Turkey, they invaded Cyprus. They were collecting a lot of taxations, and part of Iran also, they were collecting taxation, spending these money to buying people's alliance with them. And then they send someone to Mecca because he knew his biggest opposition and most credible opposition is Imam Hussein, to get Imam Hussein's alliance with him. And that's where Imam Hussein decided to leave Medina. He said he's going to leave Medina with his family and go to Mecca because he thought Mecca is a safe haven, right? You're forbidden to shed blood in Mecca. He thought that's a safe haven. And he took his entire family and his followers. One thing that I learned from this move, some of us now, when somebody's after us, we flee, we leave our family behind. And what happens? People take our family hostage, or people harm our family to use our family as a bargaining chip to get us back. Imam Hussein did not want to give any bargaining chip to Yazid and his army. So he took his entire family and he said he's going to Mecca and to be in a safe place. So those who think that Imam Hussein's uprising was for a war, he went there to have a war, no one with the right mind would take your entire family, all the women and children, to go to a war and a battle. So Yazid, meanwhile, was using force and trick to get people, but he still wanted Imam Hussein to shake hands. What would we do if we were the leader of the Muslim community and they wanted us to shake hand or we'll be killed? These events of remembrance, it's important because we have to relive this history, put ourselves in position of Imam Hussein or positions of his followers. most of us would say, handshake. What's handshake gonna do, right? I'm gonna say I align with you, but I continue doing what I do. Imam Hussein knew as a spiritual leader of a nation, he cannot pack alliance with someone who openly breaks the law of God, misuses the fund of people. So he told them, why should I sign an agreement with you or die? Isn't there another option? You could rule if you want, but I can't align with you, but I want to live. So I'm going to go to Mecca. And of course, we know the story that Imam Hussein went to Mecca with his family. And during the Hajj, a messenger came and said, the Yazid sent his people to kill you in Mecca or get your alliance. People of Kufa at this point also send letters because, Kufa is closer to Damascus and Yazid had more forces there and really messing people's life. And they asked Imam Hussein to come to Kufa where his father's government office was. Come there, we'll support you. And Imam Hussein, as a leader, just didn't agree to that. He sent his cousin to go investigate because he knew about people of Kufa. They're wishy-washy, right? So he sent his cousin to go and find out. To me, that's a sign of a leader that is streetwise. They're aware what's going on. So Imam decided to leave Mecca because he didn't want the disrespect of shedding blood in Mecca. And he decided to go toward Kufa because he had that letter. And on the way to Kufa, of course, he got shadowed by army of four, which was sent by the new governor of Kufa. Because once Yazid found out the people of Kufa have sent letters to Imam Hussein, immediately changed the governor and made Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad as the governor, a very harsh army man, full of tricks. When I was reading the story, I could imagine the head of CIA becoming the head of became the governor of Kufa, full of tricks. The story of him entering the city of Kufa, he dressed like Imam Hussein as he's entering the city. So people thought Imam Hussein has arrived and they all welcomed him. And they all said, so he realized who are the allies of Imam Hussein by greeting him, right? So, and then he gets to the palace and then he undresses himself and then takes over and then sends Hor to block Imam Hussein from entering Kufa. So, and then he takes over the Kufa and there is an opportunity. So in the beginning, the Muslim of Kufa agreed to be with Imam Hussein, but once Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad came there and he used force and killed few people, bought off some certain people, those people took their alliance back from Imam Hussein. And Muslim ibn Aqil was killed by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad, there was an opportunity. This is an important message. There was an opportunity for Muslim to kill Ibn Ziyad because Ibn Ziyad, in the beginning, he went to one of these houses that one of the old friend was there. He was also old friend of Imam Ali. And the guy knew Ibn Ziyad is coming there, told Muslim was in his house, go behind the curtain. And when this guy comes in, I tell you, I'll give you a sign, you attack him and you kill him. and that will be the end of it. Muslim agreed first, was hiding, and the guy, Ibn Ziyad, came, and the host was giving signal, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. And it didn't come out. And the Ibn Ziyad sort of like became suspicious. And after he left, the guy told Muslim, how come you didn't attack and kill him? Because that would have been the end. And Muslim said, our Prophet taught us never terrorize and never do assassination. So those who think that Muslims are assassins, this is not message of Islam. So Muslim, by killing Ibn Ziyad, probably would have ended a lot of these things, or at least delayed the event. And of course, Imam Hussein, at this point, before Muslim was killed by Ibn Ziyad, sent a messenger to Imam Hussein that don't come. And I'm captured and I'm about to be killed. Don't come to Kufa. And told Imam Hussein how all religious scholars were bought by Ibn Ziyad and Yazid. And so Imam Hussein has a famous sermon in Mina before he left Mecca. And he tells the scholars, you scholars, witness the God's covenant are broken, yet you're not concerned. Even though you fear for a violation of your father's covenant, you see that covenant of the messenger of God is disregarded, and the rights of weak and deprived are not fulfilled. So Imam Hussein was worried about the poor and helpless people. And not support those who strive in the path. Instead, you're at ease with flattery and compromise with oppressors. All of these were forbidden by God, but you did them. And great calamity is that you have lost your position. Telling the scholars of that time, you have lost your position because you did things that God forbidden. So I'm going to stop at this point, and tomorrow night we will continue and cover these 10 days of Muharram, and then finally I'll share with you what should we do? What is our responsibility in 21st century? With that, I ask you all to recite aloud salawat, inshallah.